Hello everybody, welcome back to Expedition Homestead. I hope you're all having an incredible day. So far we've had a really great gardening season all year round, but fall is here. We got a deep frost the other day, so it's time to harvest out the rest of our vegetables. But before I do that, I want to talk about the basis of our backyard garden and how we got a strong, reliable harvest throughout our springtime, summertime, and throughout the fall, as you're about to see as well. I truly believe that raised bed gardening is a great way to utilize a small area in a backyard. And when growing in raised beds, the number one thing that you have to nail down before you even think about starting to grow a garden is going to be the soil. Our garden bed is filled with microbial content and mycorrhizal fungi because of the wood chips that we used when we started putting in soil. What we did first is we put in 6 inches of wood chips, then we filled it with our soil and compost mixture, which is about 75% organic soil and 25% organic compost. And then after that, we also put wood chips on top of the soil about 2 inches once our seedlings are tall enough to grow above that. So 2 inches of wood chips on top, 6 inches down below, we've got the soil in between. What is that going to do in the garden? Because we have those wood chips breaking down into the soil, that's going to invite the mycorrhizal fungi to thrive in here. I actually inoculated the wood chips in soil as well to make sure that we had as good of numbers as possible. So what this mycorrhizal fungi does as it's breaking down the wood chips is essentially create a highway system for nutrients and moisture to flow in the soil. This mycorrhizal fungi kind of acts like a glue or a silk that grows within the wood chips in the soil, and that's going to in turn help feed our plants and give our garden the nutrients it needs. Even though this is a oversimplification of the whole process, believe it or not, that's actually how it works. And if you've got a garden that is full of mycorrhizal fungi, it is going to outperform any other garden that does not have it, simply because of that transfer of nutrients and moisture, which we know is vital to our garden. So that's the number one takeaway that I have for you guys involving this year's garden. So if you're new to the channel, I just really wanted to highlight that because in my opinion, there's not enough gardeners that are using this in their garden. And I just think it's incredibly essential that we use it when growing in our backyard. So moving on, I'm not going to go through all the other things we did in the garden to make sure that it flourished throughout the year, but let's talk about our fall garden now. I love fall gardening because it generally requires a lot less input in the garden than your spring and summer crops do, because we're going to require less watering most of the time because it's not being dehydrated from the sun. It's not evaporating. Your soil is pretty much clear of most of the weeds that are going to be causing an issue. If we're gardening in the spring with seedlings, there's going to be weeds popping up everywhere, but now that it's fall, there's not really anything new growing in the soil. So it's just so much easier than growing in the spring and summer. Fall is a great time for a lot of different crops. We got brassicas, cabbage, onions, alliums, carrots, turnips, radishes, kohlrabi, a ton of different vegetables that you can grow in the fall as well. Specifically, we've got to harvest out pretty soon our onions. As you can tell, they have flopped over, which is going to be signaling the end of their growth. We're not going to have very big bulbs on these because I think I was a little late on this one, but nonetheless, there'll definitely be some stuff we can use in the kitchen. Then we've got carrots, turnips, and some radishes to harvest, as well as a couple of heads of cabbage that we have over here. Okay, so it's starting to rain out, so we got to make this quick, but I want to show you a couple of the radishes, then turnips, and then maybe we'll see how our carrots are doing over here as well. I really did like a half thinning on. I didn't thin them out completely because I knew there was only so much time left in the season and I wanted to get as much as I could. So figured that there'd be a few runts here and there, and they turned out great. You can see the dominant ones kind of took over, and then the radishes that were stuck in between, which I probably would have thinned out, taken a lot of extra time, they didn't amount to much, and the bigger ones just did great. So another thing I prophesize on the channel is that you should always put as little work as possible in your garden. Even if it means diminishing your returns just by a little bit, it's totally worth it. Because in the end, time is one of the most critical resources that we have as gardeners.
Oh, another big one. Look, a big. This one's stuck.
Whoa, that one's probably a little too big.
No, it's not.
Oh, no,
This one not.
pretty good.
What do you have to say about all those?
We grow a lot of radishes, and sometimes they get old.
Anything else?
And sometimes if you let food out, that's okay. If you put it out that's like this, they're not ready.
Good job.
See this?
Yeah. Here, let's zoom in.
Not ready.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. This one, see how this, if you let your turnips or any other root crop grow too long, you're gonna get these bugs that bore through it. So really, this is gonna turn out to be chicken food, but that's all right. It's so far down there, it's gonna break up. Whoa! That. Okay, so we've got a bunch of turnips here, bunch of radishes, a couple of heads of cabbage, and we're gonna harvest out the last of our tomatoes that have not ripened up yet. We'll bring those inside, and then they will turn red for us.
And not the ones that are too red we should not eat.
Yep. Who do we give the red one, the really red ones to?
Chicken.
Yep.
But they're not out yet.
No.
Oh, one turned out.
So in the garden, we like to utilize all of these resources too. So any waste that we have from the garden, if it's not going directly into the compost, typically it's going to go to the chickens because they love to eat all sorts of greens from the garden. If you guys have chickens and have not been feeding them your scraps from the garden, you might be surprised by how much they can actually eat. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you all next time.